Jonty Rhodes is, without question, the best crowd pleaser in world cricket because of an unquenchable bubbling approach to a game which he sees purely as a vehicle of enjoyment.
If you let the pressures get to you, it becomes a bit of a drag, especially the fielding part. I get spoken to quite a bit when I'm batting. I think I irritate the opposition a little bit. I look like I'm going to get out every second ball. So there's a lot to laugh about. You can't take too seriously what they're saying about your technique and how you're looking and how you're playing and missing. So when I'm batting, I do tend to have a bit of a chuckle. But when I'm fielding, the smile's genuine. I'm actually enjoying myself.
It's an attitude that comes from his faith.
The last 3 years I've been a committed Christian, and it's helped my cricket tremendously. That's why you see the smile, because the pressures are no longer on me. When I first started playing, everything I did was for me. Now I know that there's a bigger plan, there's a bigger sort of realm of life. It doesn't all happen on the cricket field. I just find that the Lord is using me to reach out to people, either if I make a 0 or 100, if I drop a catch, if I miss the stumps or get a good run out. So it has been an important part of my life, and hopefully I'll continue to grow spiritually.
It's in the field that Rhodes first established his reputation. His fielding is electrifying, mostly at square point, where, despite being designated as a no-go area by opposing batsmen, he still brings off some astonishing run-outs. But while Rhodes is maintaining the South African tradition of excellence in the field, and who can ever forget the likes of Colin Bland, fielding alone cannot guarantee a place in what is now a rapidly improving side. His batting technique, particularly against spin, has improved so much between floundering against Anil Kumble in 1992 and countering the wrist spin of Shane Warne that he now averages over 40 in Test cricket. He has single-handedly affected the course of 3 of his 14 Tests. He turned round impossible-looking situations to save the Moratuwa Test against Sri Lanka and then to win the 2 games against Australia in Sydney and Johannesburg.
There's never an impossible situation. I think it's obviously there have been situations where the guys have gone against a new ball and it's been swinging around a bit. So by the time I've gotten, it's a little bit easier. But I'm prepared to knuckle down and just do the hard work. It's never a hassle if we 40 for 4. I find it more of a hassle if we're 300 for 4. I tend to find I'm not concentrating as hard as I should if we're in a good situation. So difficult situations possibly bring out the best in me at this stage.
But it's not always been easy for this 24-year-old from Durban.
I was diagnosed having epilepsy. Fortunately, it was a real mild form of epilepsy. I had never had to take any medication, but it was epilepsy nonetheless, and it just prevented me from playing rugby and contact sports. So I had to be careful where I put my head. I've done everything that little boys do. But I think that people with epilepsy, if they know their problems or they know their weaknesses, they can overcome them. It's never a hassle having epilepsy because through medication you can control it. But as long as you know your limitations, you can overcome them.
It's easy to see why Rhodes has become a national hero in South Africa, and at a time when the modern game is suffering from the image of verbal abuse, he's conscious of his position as a role model.
I've been brought up in a household that my parents are both teachers, so the discipline's been pretty severe. But it's held me in good stead. I can't be a spokesman, or I can't expect other people to have the same values I do. Everyone is different. But I think for spectators, especially nowadays in South Africa with the youth, the excitement, that the spectators that turn out, most of them are young kids, and the following the cricketers have got these days, I think it's fairly important to be good role models. And in the past, especially in South Africa with the isolation, you've only had provincial sort of heroes, as it were. And now it's on television day in and day out, not only in South Africa but overseas as well. And you're in the public eye a lot of the time, for 8-9 months of the year. I think it's important. Kids of today, they're growing up in a fast world, and I think if we as public figures can hold on to a few values, I think it's really important.
But there's no holier-than-thou attitude with this young man. He sympathises with the problems his friend has encountered in recent months.
The spectators or the public in South Africa have seen the wrong side of him. I have spent a bit of time with him off the field, and he's a great bloke. We're fairly similar in that we're both really having a good time. We're enjoying ourselves on and off the field, and we're just out there, just having good fun. But I think he's maybe been under a little bit of pressure, from the public especially. He's been written up as every time he gets out in the field, he's a match winner. I think as a spin bowler, to dominate, you've actually got to be quite aggressive. You've got to have more than a presence. You can't come down the wicket and bowl a rip snort of a bouncer. So to intimidate a guy, you've actually got to get on top of them. The only way he can do it is verbally. Whereas me, they're happy with a few stops backward point and 1 or 2 catches and maybe 20 runs in the middle order. So I'm fortunate in a sense that there's not tremendous pressure on me. Whereas a guy like Shane, with his capabilities and his talent, every time he gets a ball in his hand, people are expecting wickets. You know, so he's found it difficult, I think, maybe to live up to that. But I think he's coped all right. And yeah, we have struck up a friendship, which just shows that nothing's impossible.
Just as Warne burst into our consciousness at Lord's last summer, so playing at the home of cricket will be the ultimate fulfilment of an ambition for this young man.
If we didn't get back into national cricket, as a young sort of sportsman, I was a keen footballer and I wanted to become an English citizen and play my soccer for Man United or cricket for England. But that's a long time ago, and unfortunately the situation in South Africa has changed. And I'm just looking forward to go walk onto Lords. You know, I had a special feeling walking onto Sydney, my first game for South Africa. I had a lump in the throat, sort of very emotional. I'm quite an emotional person. And I think Lords is going to be exactly the same. It's the home of cricket, and it's been my dream ever since I've been a little boy.